Welcome to this IEECP Lunch Seminar. Today we will focus on the Horizon 2020 funded project SENSEI, and our presenter is Philippos. Philippos?
Hello everyone. Thank you, Marie. So today we're presenting SENSEI, the progress so far, a little bit of the context, and two main deliverables. So SENSEI, the full name of the project is Smart Energy Services Integrating the Multiple Benefits from Improving the Energy Efficiency of the European Building Stock. So it's a mouthful, so we just keep it to SENSEI. So SENSEI, as you can read, enables energy efficiency to be rewarded as an energy resource in grid service while turning the retrofitted building's value into an investable asset. Let's go to the next slide. SENSEI has brought together market actors that are here to develop integrated concepts and business models that expand from the successful energy performance contract model to include pay for performance. Now, pay for performance is a new term. Pay for performance schemes focus on using predominantly energy efficiency to reduce power consumption, mostly in peak times, thus attracting new sources of financing. To enable the scalability and application in multiple contexts, these services rely on state-of-the-art automated measurement and verification methodologies. I'd like now to present briefly the objectives on SENSEI and then continue with the model. So SENSEI, as a project, aims to identify where and when energy efficiency has value as a power system resource, and to quantify this value compared to supply-side alternatives. So having identified this value, it is designing the smart services to substantiate the integrated pay-for-performance and its performance contracting model that rely on advanced and automated monitoring, reporting, and verification methods to share high-quality data along the value chain. So the value chain will be presented in the next slide. Continuing, SENSEI also aims to define the agreements and rules that should govern the value and information exchanges between building owners, ESCOs, aggregators, and also between aggregators and those willing to compensate energy efficiency. So here you understand that the role of the aggregator is quite central. In order to get strong foundations for scalability, the project is engaging already with investors and finance institutions to understand which conditions make pay-for-performance arrangements more attractive to third-party financing. And at the end of this 3-year grant period, so ending in 2 years from today, SENSEI will have designed the business models to support pay-for-performance and will be supporting stakeholders to design the first pay-for-performance pilots in Europe. So next slide, please. Here, this is the main concept of the SENSEI model. So the business models and the associated services that are being developed will be self-sustainable after we finish the project. And also there will be a concrete value proposition for utilities, grid operators, and cooperatives. So the resulting revenue streams are originating from the newly captured market value of energy efficiency from buildings. And this is allowing faster payback periods for renovations and the installation of energy efficiency measures as grid infrastructure. So some discussion here is needed on what makes pay-for-performance schemes different from traditional energy efficiency support schemes. So the main difference is that they make use of an energy efficiency metering method of comparing consumption against a baseline. So the energy consumption of the building is tracked using smart meters usually, and the data is compared to a baseline which shows how energy consumption would have evolved in the absence of these measures. So if the project is delivering savings, the payment is made, and the payment is proportional to the amount of energy saved. Now, the cash flow structure of these pay-for-performance schemes also makes them different from a traditional subsidy scheme. With a traditional scheme, you generally get the payment at the beginning of the project, And this poses quite a few risks for the public authority or utility delivering the payment, as there is always the risk that the impact is lower than expected. This can happen, for example, if the equipment is not installed properly. In a pay-for-performance program, the payments are issued once there is evidence that the intervention has delivered savings. It is usually 1 year after the installation or even sooner. So this has two major consequences. One is that the project developer has to wait until energy consumption is measured to receive a payment. And two, that if a project does not deliver, there is no payment. So the project developer takes the performance risk away from the public authority or utility. So that's the overall concept. And at this point, I would like to present to you two recent deliverables. The first one is from the ongoing experience with pay-for-performance schemes in the US, and the second will be on the technical core of the project, looking at methods for dynamic monitoring and verification of energy savings. So first on deliverable 4.4, it was released back in June, and you can find this available on our website. And by the way, there's also a video available on our website presenting this report and its results if you want a quick overview. So for any very quicker overview, in the report we have reviewed 11 examples. Most of them are from the US and 2 more are from Canada and Germany. The programs that are put in place are by public authorities, utilities, or system operators. Many of them are happening in the context of an energy efficiency obligation scheme, and they are driven by the need to increase the impact of these schemes. As you can see in the table, most of these programs have reviewed, we have reviewed target large commercial buildings. Smaller buildings are also there, but not as many. Perhaps it would be good now to proceed with an example of some smaller buildings. So in the example here, we look at an example from California, from the Pacific Gas and Electricity Company, PG&E. So this is the only case where we have reviewed which targets the residential sector exclusively. The focus on the residential sector has been possible because of the deployment of smart meters. So PG&E selected aggregators to deliver the savings through an open tender. And the price per unit of energy saved is the results of the bids of the aggregators. The aggregators then are now rewarded on a monthly basis, and this is based on the energy savings delivered to the client's portfolio. PG&E uses the Caltrack method. It's an open source methodology to calculate these savings. Also, the compensation provided to aggregators is 100% proportional to the energy saved. So these payments go on for just 2 years, but they do take into account the lifetime of the measures. So in this way, long-term measures are encouraged, even though the payments only run for 2 years. So that's a bit of a taste from deliverable 4.4. You can find quite a lot more examples on the website from other programs and many more details if that's of interest. So let's proceed now with deliverable 7.1. This is titled Methods for the Dynamic Monitoring and Verification of Energy Savings. So this report is due in November. So this is the final draft really. And it includes the technical core of the project. I will not go into many details, but basically just offer you an overview of the various chapters. So chapter 1 offers a background to monitoring and verification with a focus on energy performance contracting between a building owner and an ESCO. And it also looks at the revenue sharing agreements that can be forged between an ESCO and a project aggregator. Chapter 2 is reviewing the state of play of automated monitoring and verification methodologies, and includes a description of the main aspects of this set of methods. This, for example, includes CalTrack, but also more methods. CalTrack is the most famous, but of course, there have been many more efforts in this field. The focus is on methods that have been tested under these real-life conditions and that they are associated with specific empirical results and best practices. Then the third chapter gets quite more practical and proposes a replicable workflow for practitioners. So it proposes to utilize decision tree models in order to model the energy consumption of a building in the pre-retrofit period, so basically establishing the baseline, and also for estimating the energy savings in the post-retrofit period. It also takes into account uncertainty, which is a very big novelty. This has not been done very well in other methods, and CalTrack and the wider ecologies is now actually starting to look into it, along with more classical values of temperature and time variability and so on. Lastly, the fourth chapter presents the SENSEI workflow for the measurement and verification of post-retrofit energy savings. It is evaluating how well this predictive model fits the available data. So how well would a baseline predict the actual performance of the building. And it includes a guide on how to interpret the model and also presents this very innovative understanding on the quantification of uncertainty. So it is really a very important deliverable. I wouldn't necessarily say groundbreaking. That might be a bit of an excessive statement, but it definitely goes towards that direction, and it is certainly one of the most important deliverables of the project. So let's proceed now with a little update on our major communication and dissemination activities. Back in June, we participated in EUSEF, the EU Sustainable Energy Week, with a panel debate along with 3 more projects, Novice, Launch, and USET. That was a quite good debate, I have to say. And it also led to preparing this letter to policymakers along with even more projects. The title is 7 Horizon Projects Advise EU Leaders How to Prepare Buildings for the Energy Transition, where we basically set out the main policy recommendations from current results. We will also be having an upcoming opinion piece on EU Press, together written by RAP and IEECP, titled, as you see, Time for Energy Efficiency to be Valued as a Grid Resource. We are, next slide please, we are also proceeding with participation in a number of conferences. Today, actually, we are at the Sustainable Places digital event, which actually starts now, or in an hour. On the business and energy efficiency models. Here we have 2 presentations, one by Myron Santini from RAP and a second from Arturo La Pietra from Omni Energy. In December, we will also be at the Italian Association of our Energy Economists with 4 presentations from Factor 4, ACP, Omnia, and HIBS. And next February, we were planning to attend a workshop. Now we don't know if World Sustainable Energy Days in Austria will be in person or digital, perhaps a hybrid approach. And there we have a workshop where we plan to engage much better with the stakeholder community. And we'll also have a paper submitted. So that is really the latest ones. And the last message for the ones participating and for the ones seeing this recording later is that SENSEI is setting up some negotiation games with preliminary stakeholders, and the purpose is to better understand the positioning of everyone, seeing how we can combine better the pay-for-performance arrangement with the energy performance contracting. So these negotiation games is a far more serious game. It has already been running internally. And after the first few rounds, we will be opening it up to external stakeholders. So if that's of interest and you want to know more about pay for performance and contribute to shaping the business model, you're invited to join. Thank you all very much for your time and for your attention. And please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippos. As usual with IEECP Lunch Seminars, the video is going to be uploaded on YouTube, and all links you mentioned will be available below the video. If there is a question, I see Jean-Sébastien, you unmuted yourself. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Marin, and thanks a lot, Philippos, for this really interesting presentation. I would have a question about the deliverable on where you reviewed experiences of pay-for-performance schemes. Did you have the opportunity to look at the transaction costs that are induced by this approach of, let's say, monitoring the performance afterwards, or let's say the actual performance of the actions? And in other words, does it mean that these approaches are mostly for large projects like large commercial buildings or collective housing or that kind of projects?
Hi, Joseph-san. So indeed, most of the projects started with the big buildings that already had the infrastructure in place, and because yes, indeed, there the transaction costs are much lower. The reason I presented the example from PG&E is that they are the first ones that have really focused on the residential sector, and with the technological developments of more smart meters and their installation, and the associated development of specific software as a service, then the transaction costs also become much lower for more, disaggregated, small-scale, distributed portfolios of buildings. So there's definitely a trend. Big structures, big buildings have traditionally been more involved, but we're also seeing that the transaction costs are falling for smaller buildings as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, then we can close this session. Thank you and have a very nice day.